Okay, here we go with the second part of our experts' analysis of Abu Dhabi. So this is Peter Windsor talking about Abu Dhabi the following day, the Monday, midday on the Monday, following the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, which took place on Sunday, the 12th of December 2021. So we are 7 minutes 52 into his 15-minute 27 presentation. Here we go.
And there's quite a lot of chatter now on the internet about other things, about whether the races should have been stopped as often as they were, and about particularly the DRS issue for Mercedes in Brazil. Now, if you look at that one in particular, I made the point in the video that you cannot blame the stewards for the penalty that they gave Mercedes for that DRS.
Why are we diverting? Right, we can talk about the corrupt events throughout the season, and there will be strap-on fans that will go, "Oh, what about Bahrain?" Okay, as if something took place in Bahrain was something that we'd never seen before in Grand Prix racing. Okay, and we'll come to that at some point. When I get the time, I will dissect that and just obliterate every notion of that. But that's going to take some time to do, because what I need to show you is just going to take time to compile. But if you actually look at all the decisions made and all of the things that Verstappen was allowed to get away with on Hamilton without penalty in the race, without penalty points on his licence, had those penalty points been applied to his licence, Verstappen wouldn't have even been driving at the Abu Dhabi race. He'd have had a race suspension because of all the fouls that he did throughout that season. But they are actually irrelevant because they fall under the remit of judgment call. They were wrong, they were corrupt judgment calls, but what took place in Abu Dhabi was corruption because it was purposefully breaking the rules to manufacture an outcome. That's different to a judgment call. You can have a biased referee where they can give bookings, they can give red cards, they can give free kicks to a certain team and favour one team and not the other. That's wrong. Okay, we can identify that happening within a football match. But if a referee breaks the rules of the sport to purposefully make sure that one team wins it by breaking the rules, that's a different category of corruption. We shouldn't be worrying about what he's talking about now.
Gap that suddenly appeared in Parc Fermé. The point that needs to be made now, though, is that Michael Masi sent that straight to the stewards for them to make the decision because he doesn't have the same remit as Charlie Whiting. Charlie Whiting was both a technical delegate and the race director. Michael Masi is just the race director. He doesn't have a technical remit. So when Joe Bauer in Parc Fermé found that glitch on the DRS for Mercedes, it wasn't up to Joe to go to Mercedes and say, this was legal before qualifying, it's illegal now, prove to us that there's been some damage during Q3, Q2.
When he found that 0.2 of a millimetre discrepancy, he went straight to the stewards with it.
Or Q1 and it'll be okay, just let's see how it got damaged. He didn't do that. He just sent it straight to the stewards. He probably emailed it to Michael Masi, but if Michael at that point has got another priority, which is working on some other sporting code issue with another team, something else going on, he's just going to send it straight to the stewards as well.
It's not the race director's remit. It's irrelevant. Okay, so why are you bringing it into this discussion? Why are you bringing it into your presentation about what took place in Abu Dhabi? You've got scrutineers, which are scrutineering the competitors' cars and the competitors themselves to make sure that they're compliant with the technical regulations of the sport. That's their role. Michael Masi, as race director, is in charge of ensuring that that circuit is safe and ensures that that contest, that competition, is carried out in accordance with the rules of the sport. Okay? It's not his job to go checking each car. There is a department that goes checking each car and make sure each car is compliant. What are you talking about?
And that's where the system has changed in Formula One. And of course, a lot of the teams are not happy about that because with Charlie, you had this all-embracing figure who had a foot in both camps, the technical and the sporting side. And that doesn't happen with Michael. That's not Michael's fault. It's totally understandable that...
What are you on about? Oh, it's not his fault. It's fucking irrelevant, dickhead.
in replacing Charlie, you'd have a guy like Michael just focusing on being a race director because it's a difficult enough job as it is. If this goes to a court of appeal and Mercedes win the court of appeal, I don't think in a million years the World Championship will go to Lewis Hamilton. I don't think they will say...
I don't think. Why don't you think? You're giving your opinion now. What's your opinion based off? If this goes to court and Mercedes win, I don't think they'll give the title to... Why don't you think that? If we have a athletics competition, well, let's use the 1988 Seoul Olympics as the example. The person that crossed the line first, that was the declared winner, that got given the gold medal at the gold medal ceremony, he failed a drug test. He had anabolic steroids in his system. I don't think he'll lose that gold medal. Well, why would you not think that they'd just strip him and award that gold medal to the person that didn't fail a drug test and therefore was a legal athlete, that was the first legal athlete to cross the line? And he's then the gold medalist. He's the true winner of that event. Why do you not think that? It's ridiculous. What you're putting forward is just... There is absolutely no construct to your argument. But you're projecting an opinion of, you don't think that the outcome will change. Well, something corrupt happened to produce that outcome. So therefore, we should just allow that outcome to stand. No. If something corrupt happened to produce that outcome, we can define what it was. We can define what the outcome would have been without any shadow of any doubt. The outcome was a safety car finish. 100% a safety car finish. Lewis Hamilton made it to the end of that race. It is a safety car finish. Lewis Hamilton wins that race. The race was valid for 56 laps. The rules were broken on lap 57. You can declare a result at the end of 56 laps. Lewis Hamilton was in the lead at the end of 56 laps. There is no other outcome. But you don't think it will change the outcome. Why?
Say this race should have been stopped. This race will now be declared over 1 lap from the checkered flag because that was the official legal ending of the race. I don't think that'll happen. I think Max Verstappen will keep his world championship.
Why don't you think that will happen?
And so therefore it's very difficult to know what sort of satisfaction Mercedes will get, even if they win in the Court of Appeal. I suppose it'll just be that we were right. There's nothing we can do about it now, but we were right. And that's something they can take forward, I guess.
You're not giving us reasons. I don't think. Why don't you think? Why don't you think? Why would they not reverse the decision? Why would they maintain a corrupt result? Yeah, the result is wrong, but we'll keep it. Why are you projecting that?
Into 2022. But I think one thing that will come out of this is there will be a more powerful platform now for the race director. I don't believe Liberty and the FIA can go into the winter now thinking that things can continue the way they are. I think they will want to see a bigger strategy team behind the race director. He needs more backup. He needs more people. I mean, if you think...
Why does a race director need a bigger strategy team? No, they don't. You don't need a strategy team for race direction. Okay? You are the official of the sport. You don't need a strategy for being the official of a sport. You just need to apply the rules of the sport.
Think about Michael. He's been like everybody, but, very pressured situation. He's been on the road for what, 3-4 months now, probably without seeing...
What do you want us to do? Play him a violin tune to all feel sorry for him? Lots of people do tough jobs in this world. You get junior doctors working 70 hours plus a week, saving people's lives for shit money, right? They're doing life-saving, important work. And you're saying, oh, this guy, he's had to travel around the world for a bit, being put up in hotels, being a race director, official of the sport. It's so challenging for him, isn't it? And he's under pressure because Christian Horner phones him up and goes, Michael, will you do this for us? And Michael says, Yes, Christian, I will do that for you. This is so challenging for Michael Massey, isn't it? Fuck off. He's a corrupt bastard. The entire show is corrupt. You've got no comprehension whatsoever of what it is real people do for a living and the challenges that they face. And you're trying to present that some fucking privileged cunt that has been given the plum job in a sport, that's a corrupt bastard, that has cheated, that's perpetrated global corruption, is somehow having a tough time of it. Unbelievable.
He's home. It's the COVID era. He took the place of Charlie and went straight into the COVID era effectively. And he's had nothing but Toto Wolff on one side and Helmut Marko on the other side, giving him these instructions constantly. Do this, do that. This isn't right.
Yeah, he wasn't man enough for the job. Shoehorned into a fucking job he never deserved in the first place because of this nepotistic nature of this fucking sport. Right? Oh yeah, you're our pliable little Michael Massey. We can puppet you. We can make you do what we want you to do. You're not man enough for the job. You're part of the corruption. We're not feeling sorry for you. You've been part of a corrupt regime and you've done nothing about it. You've not been a man. You've not stood up to it and you've not said no. So nobody should have any sympathy for Massey. It's truly disgusting. What you're trying to do is to validate his actions, and it's not on. There is just no justification for it whatsoever. But Massey is far from being the only guilty party in this. Far from it. He's just one of the cogs in the entire corrupt system. So don't you dare try to bloody make everybody feel sorry for Massey. He's just one of a number of corrupt individuals in this entire shit show.
That's not right. Massive pressure from those two teams to perform. And if you think about that, it's not really a surprise that when it finally came down to that crunch moment, it was a bit of a rabbit in the headlights and some mistakes were made. So as I say, I think in the future, that needs to be...
It wasn't mistakes made. What he did is he set up the outcome of that event knowing how it would end. He broke the rules to set up an ending to that event which changed the direction of the World Championship. It changed the outcome of who became the 2021 World Champion. And you want us to be feeling sorry for him for that? It is absolutely ridiculous.
Needs to be given a lot more backup, a lot more budget and a lot more backup, and that's clear. That's point number one. Point number two, if he made the mistake, who ultimately is culpable for that? Is it Liberty or is it the FIA? I mean, Ross Brawn, you could argue.
Is it Liberty or is it the FIA? Who's culpable? Who is culpable? Who was in charge? Who set up the plot? Follow the money. Follow the money. Who contrived the outcome?
Argue would be aware of the lack of resources that Michael had.
Ross Brawn would be aware of the lack of resources. It's nothing to do with lack of resources. Ross Brawn would be aware of the plot. Ross Brawn would be exactly aware of the plot. Everybody in the FIA in a senior position is aware of the plot. They're all corrupt. Now, there are people working for the FIA that will be doing their job, and at the time that it happened, wouldn't have been party to it. The less people that know, then the more chance you have of getting away with it, the less leaks. But over time, people start to understand. And actually, those with the experience will see what went on and they'll understand the mechanics of what took place. Who has come forward and blown the whistle? Who has actually outed their colleagues for doing it? None of them. And therefore, they too are part of the corruption. So in the first instance, you could probably narrow this down to being the upper elements, upper management structure of the Formula One department within the FIA, because there's multifacets to the FIA. And it would have been them that would have been party to the rule breaks and known about it and known what the plan was and what was going to happen in Abu Dhabi. Abu Dhabi, we're going to try and set this up to make sure that it's going to be a racing finish, to make sure we retain all fans of the sport, keep everybody engaged with the sport so that when we start off in 2022, we've got a shed load more fans and already the value of the sport's higher, and we'll try and keep this show going. That is what they plan to do. And they plan to break the rules of the sport if necessary to do so. That shows it's a corrupt governing body. That's evident with what they actually did. And what they actually did, they got the complicit agreement of the teams that enabled them to do it without the teams calling them out. So it's clear that that sort of thing has taken place. So it's clear that those within the FIA knew about it. But who has proposed that? And it would very much seem that the organisation that proposed that would be the people that had the marketing rights to the sport, the people in charge of the money, the value of the sport, which contributes towards the value of all teams.
As relative to the Formula One teams that he's dealing with, and maybe should have done something about that. But Ross would argue that it's an FIA matter, not a Liberty matter. And then if you take it to the FIA perspective, you're talking Jean Todt, and yeah, I think there are question marks there. Why Michael doesn't have a bigger budget. And I think the other question that needs to be asked.
Why do you keep bringing it? Why Michael doesn't have a bigger budget? Yeah, the referee in the football match, he made some corrupt decisions because he hasn't got a bigger budget. What a load of bollocks.
Is a very clear platform of Todd's in his first presidency campaign was that he would be appointing an official Formula One Supremo, kind of, the next Bernie Ecclestone. Where's that person?
Well, what sort of shit are you talking now? Liberty Media bought Bernie Ecclestone out. So who's the head of Liberty Media? Is it Malone? Is it Greg Matthews, the CEO? Okay, just because they're not the public figure like Bernie Ecclestone was, effectively they've taken over Bernie's role. Formula One itself has got the CEO of Formula One, presently Domenicali. I think that may have been different in 2021. I don't know. But there's one of them. Does that matter? No. We're looking at this moment in time. We're talking about what took place in Abu Dhabi. Does the CEO of Formula One as itself, as a brand, did they know about it? Most probably yes. Most probably yes. They've certainly not done anything to rectify it, have they?
Maybe he's out there, but I'm not aware he exists and ever has existed. So, I mean, that's another issue. I suppose you could say it's Michael Massey, but, that he's a race director. That's a different thing altogether. And so there's definitely some gaps there that need to be filled. I think Lewis was nothing but dignity on the podium, and I think a massive thumbs up needs to go to him for his behaviour after the race and the way he carried himself after the race there. I think it'll be a really difficult...
So what you're doing now, you're parroting the Martin Brundle, congratulating Lewis on his conduct after he'd just been publicly done over.
Difficult thing for Lewis to take into the winter, as I've said in the previous video. I think he will be completely gutted, regardless of the face he puts on. And don't forget, this is the end of that whole era now, and he goes into the new 2022 car, and George Russell alongside him, and the whole balance of power in that team will be adjusted. Obviously, Lewis is the number one 7 times.
This is the day after Abu Dhabi. You're talking about the 2022 car and George Russell. We're talking about the most corrupt event that we've ever seen in the sport. Have you ever seen the ending of a championship go down to the last race of the season, and that last race of the season end with the referee breaking the rules of the sport to set it up for one competitor to win? No, you haven't. But now you're talking about 2022 and George Russell.
World champion. But George will be there with a very different set of goals to Lewis. George's goals will be out-qualify Lewis whenever I can, outrace him whenever I can, obviously within reason in terms of the team situation. Whereas Valtteri was very different. He was a sort of Francois Sever to Jackie Stewart. He was Valtteri Bottas to Lewis Hamilton. And
So this is your speculation. This is what I think is going to happen.
And I think, that's a big thing for Lewis to be taking into 2022, going in with this new whole George Russell era. But beyond that, he's doing it having lost that championship the way he did in that last lap, having led the whole race and having led it beautifully on the medium tyre from the start, which I'm still astonished about how good he was on the medium. So I don't really feel any different about this race. I still think it's a very unsatisfactory result. And you could say all this legal stuff is very bad for the sport. I'm sure it's not, because everybody's fascinated by the minutiae of the regulations and the personalities involved. Michael Massey is a very correct, very quick, alert thinker.
Michael Massey is a very correct... Really? Really? We've just seen him break the rules of the sport to crown somebody a champion, to change the outcome of a race. This is ridiculous. And Windsor, you are this so-called expert. You are this mind of Formula One that can present with a level of intelligence, expertise. Again, you would be seen by some as being the equivalent of having the credentials to be a university lecturer on the sport of Formula One. And this is the best you can do in terms of breaking it down and analysing what took place in Abu Dhabi. Because that's this kind of level of analysis that people think they're getting from you. It's piss poor. You're just a validator.
Very unsatisfactory result. And you could say all this legal stuff is very bad for the sport. I'm sure it's not, because everybody's fascinated by the minutiae of the regulations and the personalities involved. Michael Massey is a very correct, very quick, alert thinker. But you've got to sympathise with his position between the two teams. And as a final thought, I would say that one of the innovations we've had this year on the media and the public is the access to the radio between the teams and the race director. It's got the FIA logo on it whenever it's a radio to race director transmission. I think that's a bad thing. I love the radio from the teams to the drivers, but I think it's very bad to have that access for the public, because...
Well, you know what? If there's no problem, if there's no corruption, what's the problem? Keep them private. Keep it secret? Keep these communications secret so the public don't know when we're manipulating things? Is that what it is? Don't let them know that what we're doing is just fixing it a bit for excitement. We're making it a bit closer. Yeah, we're deciding how we're going to do this to make it exciting. We don't really go by the rules. We're just working out between ourselves the best way of manipulating this so we get the winner that we want to win. So keep the radio messages silent. Don't tell everybody what we're saying. What's the problem if that's not going on? And what's the problem if you've got a race director that's just man enough to deal with it? I say man enough. There's plenty of women with integrity that are capable of dealing with it as well. It's not it's not a male fucking trait, because clearly this man in Michael Massey didn't have it. Why did he not possess the integrity to conduct himself in a position of authority and tell these people that were trying to coerce him? Well, again, even when you voice it like that, it's wrong. It was a predetermined thing. We fall back into this trap of saying, oh, Red Bull were trying to coerce him. They weren't trying to coerce him. This was planned. It was clearly planned, and what it was a whole charade. The whole Jonathan Wheatley messages, the Christian to Michael, why aren't we getting these lapped cars out there? That there was Christian Horner fluffing his lines. That was him fluffing his lines. I bet you the people that were cutting and pasting these things, I bet you they're banging their foreheads going, oh, bloody hell, Christian, you could have done that better. but they went with it. That's what it was. It was pre-planned, it was set up, it was staged, right? And then Michael Massey has to pretend. My main concern here is dealing with this incident. We only need one racing lap. All staged. So this notion of Michael Massey being under pressure, it was a whole directive. The pressure would have come from the money men. And then Red Bull have done their thing with it, and it's been made to happen.
It's immediately become basically a blowhorn for both Red Bull and Mercedes to put political slant on everything they're saying to Michael, to try to get sort of the public behind them and to weight it in a certain direction. And
yes, they have. And that's something that needed calling out a long time ago. And it started in Bahrain. With Horner inciting the crazies with the track limits issue. Because how many seasons did Horner complain for about track limits before Bahrain? Talk us through that. And if Horner really had a problem with it, show us his appeal to the stewards at the end of the race. Show us that. But what he did, he incited the Drive to Survive boys. Oh, look at this. See, you don't penalise Lewis when he goes off the track at that point in time, but as soon as Max goes off the track to perform an overtake, you make him give it back. Well, yeah, that's the rules, dickhead. And in the driver's briefing before the race, they'll tell you what parts of the track they're monitoring track limits out, and drivers, being drivers, as they always do, will look to take advantage wherever they can. As sports people do in sport, they look to try and bend the rules and get away with what they can get away with. I'm not saying it's right, but it's happened, and it's happened for years, and the nature of that sport and the things that they penalise for wasn't that. Track limits now has become a big thing. Oh, yes, 5 seconds for track limits or lap time deleted for track limits. Take us back through the history of the sport. Take us back as to when that started being penalised to the way it is now. Do your research. But no, what happened is Bahrain, Horner incites the crazies. And then we get to Silverstone. We're not happy with that. We're very annoyed with that because Lewis nearly could have killed Max there. Again, incite the crazies. Max's fault. As proven in my video. Max's fault. And they try and pin that Silverstone crash on Lewis Hamilton and claim that Lewis Hamilton was at fault for that. Truly disgusting. Never called out. You look at what football managers do after games of football. They clearly identified several years ago that the things that the managers and the players say can lead to inciting the fans. And so they purposefully backed away from doing that because they realised the impact that their words would have. They took responsibility for that, to not incite fans in a negative manner. And that is exactly what Red Bull did in 2021. That is exactly what they did. They're toxic, filthy bastards.
I think those conversations should be kept private because they must be about reality as distinct from lobbying and propaganda, which is what they've turned into. So I think those should be stopped. I think the race to driver stuff should be continued. It's brilliant, but that is definitely an innovation we could have done without. So there we are. I'm sure there'll be more coming from this, but at the moment wanted to give you that update on the minutiae, as I say, of the regulations and the detail of what they're going to be arguing about now.
Right, so that's it for that one. I'll have a look at the other ones that he did. Believe it or not, the one that he did on the day of the race and this one, these are the first times over the last couple of days that I've actually looked at them. I'd not looked at them between Abu Dhabi and now. I'd seen a few from other YouTubers, but I'd not really looked into Windsor'S analysis of Abu Dhabi. But when I then started watching them, I realised that he needs calling out for it as well. So I know that there's another 2 or 3 videos he did on the subject. So I'm going to have a look at them, and if there's anything else that needs exposing about his analysis, I'll show you that as well. Anyway. Thanks for your time. and we'll see if we can fit any more in before Christmas. Take care. Cheers.